𝐶eann Comhairle. Tánaiste, last night RTÉ Investigates broadcast a shocking report on Tusla and children in state care. This is something that we in 𝐴𝐴 have been raising solidly for the last 5 years. The report, Tánaiste, was obscene. Young children are being taken from very difficult backgrounds from their parents, and they're being placed into special emergency arrangements. These are often unregulated, often have staff that are unvetted, and some of those staff don't even have references. Now, children are being located in apartments and hotel rooms, and they're being moved around on a regular basis. In short spaces of time, a child could be in 20 separate locations. Children are sleeping in car parks. They're sleeping in broken-down cars. They're being groomed by crack cocaine dealers. Children are being sexually abused while in the care of Tusla. Children are being raped in the care of Tusla and known to Tusla at the moment. This was reported last night. Now, we've uncovered a harrowing case of a 14-year-old girl who went missing from Tusla just 24 hours after she was placed there. The child was missing for an entire year. She was found then in a brothel. She was a victim of unimaginable exploitation when she was supposedly in your government's protection. Now, the Minister has refused, in a follow-up question by ourselves, to answer, has anybody ever been prosecuted for the trafficking and exploitation of that child? Now, children are being killed in the care of Tusla and known to Tusla. 235 children known to Child Protection Services have been killed in the last 12 years. 13 homicides, 38 deaths as a result of suicide. And under another parliamentary question from ourselves, eight children were killed just so far this year, known to Tusla or in the care of Tusla. Now, Judge John Jordan said some of these failures are outrageous, an affront to the rule of law, and he warns that Tusla is extraordinarily exposed to significant future compensation claims as a result of the harm that's been done to these children. Judge John Campbell stated that he was incandescent with rage that a secure bed could not be found with a child deemed at risk of death. Now, he noted also that children who should be getting ready for Santa Claus were being placed in unregulated placements. Judge Sims provided three important documents, to the last Minister for Children, Roger O'Gorman, which were shredded. Now, I believe that this is one of the most disgusting, shocking scandals that has happened to children in the history of this state. And when I raised this first in the Dáil 4 or 5 years ago, it was so horrendous, I was sure that the government would put an end to these special emergency arrangements. They haven't. It's actually getting worse. Will you today give a commitment and give a date that you will end the special emergency arrangements in this country?
Tánaiste, please.
I want to thank the Deputy for raising last night's programme. I know it's been a programme that has been extraordinarily difficult for people across the country to watch, but first and foremost I want to thank the young people who came forward and shared their experience of the care system. It takes a lot of courage, a lot of bravery to do so, and to do so in such a public manner. I want to commend RTÉ Investigates for the work that they've done in relation to this, and they've highlighted a number of very challenging cases and indeed upsetting cases where vulnerable children who the state should support and protect. Of that, there's no doubt. Listening to some of the negative experiences, but quite frankly, that doesn't capture it. Listening to some of the horrors that some very vulnerable children have endured while entrusted in the care of our state does raise, obviously, very significant questions and very significant issues. I do want to say this, though. There's very, very many fine people working in Tusla, and I don't think you're taking from that fact. And they're working in extraordinarily difficult circumstances and often with extraordinarily complex cases. And I just want to acknowledge them today as well, because they are doing good work, and I do want to say that. I think that is important to say. Now, the specific issue you've raised in relation to the use of special emergency arrangements, this is effectively where the state becomes reliant on a private operator to provide accommodation in an emergency situation. It is good to see that the reliance on that is being reduced, though still too high. I think has been reduced from around 170 children in special emergency arrangements last year to now down to 70. But Tusla are now working to reduce that further in the coming months. I spoke to the Chief Executive Officer of Tusla this morning, and my understanding is there's around 69 of these centres 19 of those centres are due to be registered from the 1st of May. There's a further plan in relation to another 19 of them as well. So I do genuinely believe Tusla are working their way through this with a real sense of urgency. I should say this too. They've closed 6 centres, stopped working with them, and there's been 5 Garda referrals over a period of time as well. So I don't want anyone to think, when you mention some absolute horrors, as is your right in this House, don't want anyone to think that there's any part of this country or any service within this country or any individual in this country who is beyond the reproach of an Garda Síochána or the law in this land. So connections with 6 centres, I think was what the CEO said, have been ceased, and there have been 5 Garda referrals. There's also internal monitoring teams in Tusla, and they've carried out, I believe, 300 visits. Now, it is also true to say that there has been an increase in the number of children requiring care, you know that too. And we have seen an increase in the number of separated children seeking international protection. So that did reduce, it's reduced a lot actually now relative to where it was about a year or 18 months ago. And Tusla is having to deal in real time with these pressures too, but they're very serious.
Deputy Tóibín.
So, Tánaiste, you haven't given a date. Our commitment that these will be closed completely. The RTÉ Investigates programme was of great value, but there was one problem with it. The Minister for Children was invisible in that show. Tusla is not operating in a vacuum. Tusla is the product of your government. It is the responsibility of your minister. The lack of funds, the lack of social workers is a policy choice by your government. And this scandal is unfolding in Tusla. And I think it ranks up there with many of the scandals in the past. But the difference is that this is unfolding in real time for your government. And Tusla cannot be used as some kind of insulation blanket to separate your government from the responsibility of this horror. Now, you said once that you wanted this country to be the best country in the world to be a child. For many of these children, their horror shows it is the worst, one of the worst countries in the world to be a child at the moment. Children are being killed, they're being raped, they're being groomed at a cost of €14,000 a week to the state. When will there be accountability? When will the resources be matched to the needs? And will you give a date? Will you give
Tánaiste to respond. Time is up, Deputy Tóibín.
I need to be very careful here. There's extraordinarily harrowing cases that require the full investigation, and there has been, I know, over a period of time, 5 referrals to Garda Síochána. The Gardaí do their job and do it very well. But we also should acknowledge that Tusla isn't the problem here. Tusla are working with children in very, very vulnerable and very complex situations. And the vast majority, it's not acceptable for any child, by the way, any child, to have an adverse or bad experience, not any child. But it is important to say that there's around 6,000, but it is important to say, please.
It's applied to you the same as everyone.
It is important to say that there's around 6,000 children in our care system living with foster parents, living in registered centres, the vast, vast majority in education and training. It's also true, in fairness to Minister Foley, who's working very hard on this matter. She secured an increase in the Tusla budget, an increase of 177 million this year, on top of an additional 53 million on top of additional capital funding as